Welcome to AI Insights. I'm Thomas Siebenhüner, your host for today's episode. Joining us is a remarkable guest, Luca Heising, a PhD candidate at Maastricht University. Luca's research zeroes in on bridging the AI implementation gap in radiotherapy with a strong focus on explainable AI. We'll be exploring this topic in depth, along with Lucas's interest in human-centered AI, design thinking, and co-creation. Currently, Luca is developing an explainable AI tool aimed at enhancing the precision and effectiveness of radiotherapy treatments. Get ready for an insightful discussion as we dive into the exciting intersection of AI and healthcare with Luca Heising. Luca, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the kind introduction.
One of the fascinating concepts we've discussed is explainable AI. Could you break down what explainable AI is and why it holds particular significance in radiotherapy?
Yes, of course. So with AI, I think AI has been becoming a little bit more present for everyone nowadays. And one thing that we really see is that AI is this kind of like a magic box. You know, you put something in and something comes out. And the idea behind AI basically is that it is basically this huge network or algorithm that just learns its own parameters, and by doing so it can predict certain outcomes or give a particular outcome. And if we look to healthcare or radiotherapy, you can do the same thing. So you can, for example, use a CT image and then let AI evaluate if there's some sort of a disease in there or anything else. But one of the things, particular about AI, is that not only we do not really know what happens inside, but the developers, they also don't really know what happens inside because it's this self-learning mechanism. So what explainable AI tries to do basically is to explain what's going on inside of this algorithm. So one of the examples that's very, I think, tangible in this situation is in when you are trying to get a loan from the bank, for example. So what happens there is you have this information about maybe your age, your family status, your salary, your employment status, and the bank will then see if you can get a loan for a certain amount of money, and it will just basically say yes or no without any explanation. So that's what AI does. And here we try to understand, okay, what's going on? Why am I getting a loan or why am I not getting a loan? So for example, if in this case the AI says no, if I would increase my salary, for example, would I then be able to get this loan? And that's kind of what we try to do with explainable AI. And of course, for healthcare, this is super important because we don't want to rely too much on this black box that is AI. So if an AI would, for example, say, okay, this needs this particular treatment, or the outcome will be very promising with this treatment, then we want to know why this is the case. So if I would, for example, change the treatment, would then the outcome also be different? Or what do I need to change for the outcome to be positive if the outcome is now negative? So these are kind of things we try to look into with explainable AI. So it's more to answer questions of why am I getting a certain output, or what if the AI predicts something correctly? How can I detect this? So those are the kind of questions that I try to deal with or try to answer with my research, basically.
So, why is explainable AI especially relevant in the field of radiotherapy?
Yeah, so radiotherapy is a very technical field. So we work with a lot of data. We work with a lot of, it's already very much based on technology and on computers. So it's very applicable to AI as well. In other fields of healthcare, AI is not that present yet. And parts of it is also because they're not so used to working with technology or with so much data. So this is why the field of radiotherapy is actually moving quite fast in this direction. And that's also why we are looking into this explainable AI component, because we don't want it to be a black box. We really want to be able to explain what's going on, and we want to also to give the patient a feeling of, okay, I'm being cared for. Like the decisions that are made are actually informed decisions. They're not just made because a computer told me so, but these are things that we really want to give to the patient. And because radiotherapy is moving quite fast in this direction, we really want to focus on this as well.
What are some of the main challenges you've encountered in implementing AI solutions in clinical practice and specifically in radiotherapy?
So AI in general in healthcare is a challenge. There are so many things that can go wrong, and with AI, so what you, for example, also see in self-driving cars, or in other solutions where AI are very big thing, is that, for example, liability and responsibility and safety issues are, of course, really things that have to be thought through and through and through. So this is one of the quite a large bottleneck of implementing such a system in clinical practice. So this is also why we think explainable AI might be a solution, because then the decision is not based on on this black box that just tells me something, but it's more an informed decision. So it's more like you would use any other prediction model. Um, so those are really some really big issues or challenges that we try to address. And at the same time, there are so many differences in different tasks that you need to do, but also the different types of people that you encounter in healthcare settings. Like a clinical doctor or medical doctor, they typically have this characteristic of being really caring about every specific individual, and that's beautiful about the whole field, I think. But at the same time, it's also very challenging to then just give them, for example, this system that is just taking over this very caring part of their job. So that's it's a big challenge, but also a really important challenge that we have to address, because at this moment we're really kind of in facing a crisis in terms of healthcare staff. So there's a growing pressure really on healthcare everywhere. So this is why we think AI might be a good solution to alleviate some of this pressure and to help the clinical doctors a little bit.
Okay, understood. Um, Up to this point, how have patients responded to encounters with AI? I know it's no longer entirely new, but within radiotherapy, it's still quite an emerging area. What are their perceptions?
Yes. We talk to patients as well, or the patient representatives, and what they tell us as well is we really don't want to have this like Google Doctor or an AI that's telling us what we need to do or what's going wrong. We want to have this caring person and who thinks about what's the best choice for us. Um, and it's always going to be a little bit finding the balance there, because it's difficult for a patient to really envision what's going on behind the screens. There are already so many different models in use that maybe look even a little bit like AI, or where we also it's very complicated, and we're not going to be able to explain everything that's happening behind the screen to the patient. So it's really finding this balance in which decisions do I really want to discuss. So shared decision making is a really growing thing as well at the moment, to really make decisions about the treatment and about which would be the best step forward together with the patient. But still, the doctor is going to be the expert. So the doctor is going to give the advice and the information necessary to make this decision together. But the patient is being involved more and more, and also there this AI tool could just be another tool to give a better recommendation basically for the patient, but also for the doctor to together make this really informed decision. But it's a difficult situation, because the patient needs to be involved as well, And if we cannot really explain anymore what's going on, then how are we going to inform the patient about what the AI model predicted, for example? So it's, yeah, we need to find a balance there. That's a tough one. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Um, it sounds like shared decision making is also becoming increasingly important, especially when it comes to treatment choices. How is AI influencing this process?
So what we really try to focus on in our prototypes is to make it really centered around the user. And in our case, that will be the medical physicist or the medical doctor, but also the radiotherapy technologists. So that's, you can compare it to a nurse in another healthcare sector. And why we do this is because we want to really help them in their tasks and in their daily work. So we really incorporate them in our studies. We have the meetings together with them. We set up some development design sprints to really design this product together with them, and what kind of information do they want to see, and um, then test this prototype again with the user. And then everything that's like back end, so what AI needs to be developed to really be able to give this information that follows after. So that's really one of the focuses of my study, to include them in the design as well. Yeah, and their response has been very positive to this approach. So what we see is that, for example, the clinical data science groups, that, yeah, it really helps if you set up this kind of a setting where you include them in the design process of the study itself, instead of just presenting them with a model and then trying to, yeah, somehow implement it, but they don't really know how to use it. So we really try to also implement this kind of a method in our clinical data science group, and yeah, if possible, even further than that. But that's maybe yeah, step forward.
Right, so it varies based on the role and responsibilities of the healthcare professionals involved.
It really depends on the AI system there. Um, yeah, we have a couple of systems that we are looking into, um, and we try to make it interactive where possible, but sometimes this, yeah, is not necessarily possible. But for example, what we're also looking into is if we can also use AI, in this case generative AI, to help with writing down notes of consults, or to summarize certain things. Yeah, there the the clinician may be able to prompt a little bit more, but there are also cases where it's, yeah, less possible to really interact. One of the AI systems that we, for example, also have is that automatically contours the organs or the tumors in the CT images. And there they can easily adjust the contours that come out of the AI system. So yeah, it really depends. Basically, everything is possible in between, and also how they interact with the system. It really depends on their own profession, their tasks, but also their characteristics of the personality themselves. So some of them may be more trusting the system more, and then they will just let it do what it needs to do. And in other cases, they really dive into what's going on and what can I do to change certain things. Or we also provide AI courses. They will really go into depth into these courses. So yeah.
Switching gears, let's touch on the ethical side of AI, which is such a crucial topic in my opinion. What ethical implications do you see in using AI within healthcare?
Um, that's a tough question. I think there are many that you have to consider. Um, some of them maybe a little bit more logical. Like, for example, you really need to consider privacy, data privacy. But this is, I think, not new. Like, we know this is an issue, but also something that we really have to think about. And I don't think there's an answer to this yet. but for example, liability, responsibility. So for if an AI makes a mistake, who's going to be the one who's responsible? Is it the person who developed this AI system? Is it the person who tested it? Is it the person who used it? Or I mean, there's so many different options there.
Let me step in there because that's kind of a thought-provoking point you just made. If we can pause that for a moment, I'd love to hear more about how you and your team navigate the responsibility question in medical sciences and especially in healthcare applications. Where does accountability lie if an AI-driven error occurs?
Yeah, we at this moment we think that the doctor or the doctor is responsible for the treatment of the patient, and the AI systems that are being built to support their work are there to support their work. So they can use it, but they're still responsible basically to check it, and if it's incorrect, to make another decision there. But it's a tough question because there are so many things going on that can influence a decision if you have provided a incorrect prediction there. So also some very basic things such as biases, because you see this particular thing, you're more likely to also go with it. Um, so there's the medical doctor is responsible for the patient, but I do think that the people behind the AI system are responsible for making the best possible system that they can, and also to be very transparent in how they did this, and in which cases the medical doctor needs to be aware that maybe if this patient falls outside of the group that the AI was trained on, then they need to be um, very cautious about using such a system, and maybe also opt out of using the system. So that's really the responsibility of the developers to be completely transparent about how they did it, and how to be cautious when an AI might be able to make more mistakes. So it's a little bit both. But in the end, if the doctor has doubts, then he or she is still gonna be the one who's responsible for checking this and to make sure that the treatment is still the best that he or she can give to the patient. Yeah.
Now, we know artificial intelligence is evolving at a breathtaking pace. Large language models, for instance, and other advancements seem to emerge almost daily. Given the highly regulated nature of medical sciences, how do you reconcile the rapid development of AI with the often slower pace of regulatory processes? How does this affect your work?
Yeah, I think that in the commercial world, AI is moving much faster than in the medical world, and I think that's also pretty good. Um, yeah, of course, we can use it in many cases, but I think it's also good to really think about possible things that can go wrong. So, indeed, what you're saying, the regulations are really slowing down the development process. For example, MDR is already, I think, around for quite some time, and this is a specific law for medical technology, that if you want to develop your own medical device or technology, it has to align with so many regulations. Um, so there, in this case, many developers for medical technology are really doubting of whether they should do it, and they really have to go through all of these different steps to make sure that it is in line with the law and with the regulations there. Um, yeah, I think in some cases it's good. It can also be a little bit too much sometimes. So if a clinic or a healthcare provider wants to develop their own software or their own AI algorithms, they of course have all of the data that they need for this because they are the ones who own the data. And they could really make beautiful things, but then they're also pushed back because of these regulations. And maybe it's for the best there, but it's also a bottleneck, that's for sure.
So, Luca, looking ahead, how do you envision the future of AI in radiotherapy? Specifically, how do you see it impacting the accuracy and efficiency of treatments?
Um, I think that we are facing a very bright future, to be honest. I think that, yeah, what I already said at the beginning, the pressure on healthcare workers is really high nowadays, and it's only growing. I mean, people are getting older. Yeah, more people are getting sick. Also, more people are getting healthy again. But this does mean that we need to have more workers in healthcare, and I think their AI can really help out a lot. So with what I see, of course my focus is mainly on radiotherapy, but there are already AI applications that can support every step of the radiotherapy workflow, and I can only imagine this being the same for other healthcare settings as well. And it really depends on also on regulation on which way we are going. But I've talked to people who really think that you might go to a clinic and you lay down and you'll just like come out healthy again. I mean, you just have this sort of like a manufacturer who just makes you healthy basically. I don't think we're going to go in that direction. I think there's going to be um, a human touch to it as well, because I think we as patients also really appreciate that about medical doctors, about the people that help us and provide this care for us. And they really have this characteristic of providing this. So I think and I hope that AI will enable them to also spend more time on the patients, to really yeah, have more time for the consults and to make these informed decisions together with the patients. So I hope that's the direction that we're going to, that they have less paperwork that they have to do, that they have less of these tiny little tasks that take up way too much time, and that they can spend more time on really getting to know the patient and learning what the best way is to make them healthy again or to treat them. So that's what I'm hoping, and I think we're going in that direction with AI as well.
That truly sounds like an inspiring future, Luca. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing such valuable insights with us. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.